And hello, good morning. This is Boles TV, BOLES.TV. David Boles. And we are here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, trying to make sense out of this wacky world in which we live and try to survive and find joy and happiness wherever it may be. Sometimes it finds us, sometimes we find it, whatever that means. My Jana Marie cup is making its return as I realize my neighbors who are hotboxing me every day makes my throat go crazy. So a little bit of water from my sweetheart to help me make it through the night. So we are now multicasting, simulcasting, some kind of casting, trying to figure out what's going on with everything. And here's where it gets interesting. Because to stream simultaneously to 7 different channels, they all have to sort of behave in the same way. To accept your software that you are streaming to them. And the best sort of streaming is 60 frames per minute instead of 30 frames per second. 60 frames per second. And as I was getting everything ready today, going live, getting ready to click the button to say hello, I went to our software and I got this interesting error message that's fascinating to me that I'll show you right now. Now, this is a little bizarre because this is me within me. So I get this resolution, HD. That's good. Bit rate, I'm told, isn't this funny? Your bit rate settings is out of spec for Twitch and LinkedIn. Please set a bitrate value of less than 4,000. Now, if you want a good bitrate with OBS, you need to be 6,000. I've been at 6,000 for as long as I can remember. And as far as I know, everything's fine. But this concerns me. I do not want to lower the quality of my bitrate. So, what's going to happen? I don't know. My frame rate is 60 frames per second. Good. Keyframe interval, which I don't even really know what means, is 2. And my live stream is fair. Your bitrate settings is out of recommendation for Twitch and LinkedIn. Please set a bitrate value of fewer than 4,000. So here's where it gets, what I'm going to say, super duper interesting. Call up my Twitch stream. Well, look right here. No recommended changes. Boles TV, live. My 20s stream. I don't know why that is there. That's very bizarre. Oh, that's my closed captions, I guess. They're so terrible. But that's the way it goes. So interesting, right? So Restream is telling me, hey, old boy, you're not doing this right. That's too much. So for LinkedIn, not working? Really? Why don't we look? We'll go to our LinkedIn page and see what's happening. Hey, who's there? Okay, look, join live and in person. Click the live button. All right, takes us to like button. Excuse me, we can like, we can celebrate, we can support, we can be insightful, we can love our own, and we can do that. Love the stream, old bean. Oh, I failed to post my own comment. I guess you can't comment on your own stream. But here's where it gets interesting. You click the play stream, button, old bean. And it's absolutely simply gorgeous. Nothing wrong with it. Oh, we're streaming high. We're at the wrong frame rate. I guess you can't comment on your own stream. And it looks absolutely
you click the
play
stream
button.
won't be.
So
And it's
who is
absolutely
warning
simply gorgeous.
whom is warning what? These are the questions of the day.
We're at the wrong
I guess you can't
frame
comment.
rate.
These are the uncomfortable
And it looks absolutely
missions of our future together. So
And it's
who is
absolutely
warning?
simply gorgeous.
I can do all of this on my stream.
What?
These
But I
are
can't
questions
comment
of the
on my
day. How does that make
We're at the
sense?
wrong
I guess you can't
frame
What are my
rate.
details? These are the uncomfortable.
And it looks absolutely
Pretty good.
missions
It
of our future
updated.
together.
That's good. I'm going to try this again. Hey, I can. I'm not going to spend a lot of time typing something. Oh, that worked. I guess we had to be live first. Hey, there we are, talking to myself. Thanks so much. Now, did that get propagated onto our Discord stream as well? That's good. Yes, it did. So that's also improving. The chat is looking very good because my cheat sheet here. Hey, there we are. I said my cheat sheet here. Thanks so much. Now, did that get propagated onto our Discord stream as well? That's good. Yes, it did. Oh, what happens when and where? LinkedIn, read only. You cannot reply. Hey, there we are. I said my cheat sheet here. Thanks so much. Now, did that get propagated? You can, and you cannot relay. So I'm going to reply to my LinkedIn. What happens? And just see what happens because that's what we do on this show. LinkedIn, read only. You cannot reply in. Hey, there we are. I said my old bean. Thanks so much. Can you read this? And you cannot relay. So I'm going to reply to my LinkedIn. What happens? And just see what happens because that's what we do on this show. It got propagated to Discord. Did it get propagated over here to our LinkedIn show? No. Okay, so that's what that means. Old bean. So I'll reply to myself. Can you read this? And you cannot relay. So I'm going to reply to my LinkedIn. You are doing such a great because that's what we do. Job. Got propagated to Discord. Did it get propagated over here to our LinkedIn show? No. Okay, so how to do this? So I'll reply to myself. Can you read this? And you cannot relay. So I'm going to. It's just wonderful. You are doing such a. Do we have a lot of? Oh, maybe you're listening to audio too. I'm sure that's very distracting. Just mute that. Now there's no closed captions here, which is a little disappointing. You can turn on captions, live captions for LinkedIn. I don't know how to do it though, because obviously it's not there. And so I talk to myself, and then it does get propagated. But you can't reply back to people on LinkedIn. I guess they just have to watch. So what are you going to do? I'm going to like myself. I'm going to celebrate myself. I'm going to support myself. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to find myself insightful. And I'm going to be curious about myself. So that is interesting. And here is the information. The LinkedIn support stream settings. 4-hour max stream, aspect ratio 16:9. We have that. Resolution max 1080. Frame rate max. Oh my God, it's Linda Corin, my old pal from NJIT. We taught years together there. Suffering together there. I didn't say that. It's so wonderful to see you. Now, I can't reply back to you on LinkedIn because that's what we're talking about now. I can see you, Linda. Everything you've said gets propagated to all of our other chat networks, but I can't type back to you here. I can type back to you on LinkedIn, I guess. But it's wonderful to have you, and if you have anything to say it. Hello. And I will reply back to you here in the live stream. If you're watching the live stream, maybe you're just chatting with me. Thanks. Okay, good. You are watching the live stream. Fantastic. So my frame rate is 30, according to LinkedIn, but I'm sending it at 60 and it's fine. The keyframe is fine. Max bit rate, 6. So that's fine. Linda is retired and free. Well, that is fantastic news. Linda was one of the hardest working adjuncts I have ever met in my long teaching career. She was very tough, very smart, funny as all get out. And now she has a plan. Well, we are interested in your plan if you feel like sharing your plan. So it looks like the bit rate at 6 megabytes is now fine. So the 4,000 is not the right bit rate, according to Restream. So that's why I have to be careful with these alerts and these warnings, because maybe they're not really applicable anymore. And it says she's free to help these kids get a great life. Well, that is wonderful. You deserve all the accolades and all the love and attention you can possibly get from the world because you've put a lot in to those kids. And that's one thing people don't understand about being an adjunct. We are not there for the money. We are not there for the accolades because there is no money and there is no accolades. Talk to IT. Yes, exactly. I am my own IT, which is the problem. But everything's fine. We checked when we first started this multi-streaming a couple of days ago. We've looked at it. It all looks great on all the services. So we're very, very happy. And you can go right here to go back out of this. Back out of this. They can fix your technical problems with your stream. The stream seems fine. They're saying we have technical problems, but as far as I can tell, everything's working. I think their technical problems are out of spec. Your job was IBM. Oh, wow, 1977. Fantastic. So this is everywhere we are live streaming now. So you can be on LinkedIn, like Linda. YouTube looks really good. DLive. I didn't even know about DLive. And then we found they can fix it. Yes, absolutely. We went on DLive and found a couple of brand new friends on our very first day of streaming. It was just wonderful. Twitch, of course, is always there, always ready to go, always available. Facebook surprised me. They supply live captions. So if you're deaf or hard of hearing, you can right now click on the CC button on the live stream, and you will get captions, as well as video on demand. Linda also says computer, then Michigan Bell, telephone marketing. Linda has had a wild and wonderful life. She knows tech problems. No solutions, but she knows the problems. And when we taught at NJIT, it's the New Jersey Institute of Technology. It's a tech school. Now, students are there. They need to learn how to write and how to be effective. And many of them are not always interested in that. They're interested in sitting in front of a computer and doing computer work, which is fine. But sometimes you want to expand them a little bit, sand down some of the rough edges, help them understand bits of the world that are not just technical and obtuse. Trovo is also a new streaming network that I haven't really heard about. But we're streaming there, and we're getting awards, whatever, gifts for live streaming on Trovo. So we're very happy to do that as well. LinkedIn, here we are with our friend Linda, and Twitter, which is the most amazing of all, actually. And it's beta, but who knew that you could do a live stream on Twitter? I think it's wonderful they provide that. The unfortunate thing is if you're watching us on Twitter, you can't really participate in the live chat. It's not supported. So you can watch, you can enjoy, you can comment on the live stream. But if you want to be part of the live stream chat, then you have to go to our Discord server. And here's the link to our Discord server. So you can sign up there. You can follow the live chat in our live chat area, and then join us that way. So I added a photograph of me giving a kettlebell lesson. Jana Marie, who stars here on weekends, usually at 11 a.m. Delightful, right? All in American Sign Language. Talking about disability issues and employment issues. This is the live stream from our Twitch channel. It only goes live when we're live. Otherwise, there's a placeholder. This is our live stream from...
It only goes live when we're live. Otherwise, there's a placeholder.
And you click on closed captions.
This is our live stream from...
You can only caption I guess with YouTube after the fact. And I love this picture and only capture within a picture. I guess picture within a picture, a mirror within a mirror within a mirror within a picture and only capture within. Now this, when we're offline, is just a blank, ugly black screen. Now this, when we're offline, too bad. This stream is not available. Twitch does it better because they have a little placeholder and says, "Hey, Boles TV is offline. This stream is not available. Come back at this time. You'll be here." Or watch video on demand if you feel like it. And you have a subscription. And this is one of the we've been live streaming now for about 11 months. And this is our 1 year anniversary is October 15 now for about 11 months. And this is one of the first things I put together in my first week with our old microphone and our old setup on a Mac. And this is one of the very difficult to stream. My first week with our old microphone and our old setup on a Mac. And this was the whole joke about am I live or not? And I would always start the show by taking my pulse. Am I live? Am I dead? And hey, so far it's been lucky. I've been live every time. And then I stopped that because I got tired of laughing at myself. I've been live every time. And then I stopped that because I got tired. There's Linda. Oh my gosh, now Linda's on YouTube. See, Linda's a technical person. There's Linda. Linda knows how to jump around and test things for me. Oh, now I can reply to Linda. Hi, Linda. Linda knows how to jump around and test things for me. Oh, now I can reply to Linda. Hi, Linda. Linda knows how to jump around and test things for me. Oh, now I can reply to Linda. Hi, Linda. Linda knows how to jump around and test things for me. Oh, now I can reply to Linda. See, now Linda can see what I'm saying. I can type back to Linda because she moved from LinkedIn to YouTube, which is fabulous. What I'm saying, I can type back to Linda. That's why you need to have good friends, which is fabulous. Who will help you test these things. That's why. And Linda's one of the best. Which is fabulous. Who will help you test these. And if you're on LinkedIn, go look up Linda. Look at what she's done. Look at her history. Maybe you can. And if you're on LinkedIn, connect with her and her network if she's willing. Look at what she's done. Look at her history. Maybe. But right now she's on YouTube, which is fabulous because YouTube really does the streaming right. But right now she's on YouTube, which is fabulous because YouTube. Linda lost me. That scares me. I'm working on myself. My big TV is on YouTube, so I see myself here. That scares me. I'm working on myself. And it looks so much better than Twitch. Is on YouTube, so it does the HD better. That scares me. I'm working on myself. And it looks. I don't like that Linda's lost. It does the HD. That concerns me. But unlike a lot of people our age. She knows how to fix things. A lot of people lost our age. So Linda will find us again. She knows how to fix things. Now this new community is working. Yeah, it's very interesting. The multi-streaming thing is really a fascination. Yeah, it's very interesting. The multi-streaming thing is, and a lot of, established. Oh, you lost me on the other side. Oh, that's scary. Well, now I have to go see what happened on the other side. Oh. And see, maybe they were listening to me and they got rid of me because I'm not streaming at the right frames per second. Oh, and there's Linda. Oh, look at that. Light, believe. Oh, that's beautiful. So let me click live. Okay, well, now so it's there, the other side, but not there. And see, maybe, but we're fully 100% supported on YouTube. So that is the way to go. So Linda's there on YouTube, checking in. And I love how in the chat, you can see where Linda's coming from. Oh, Linda actually hit the button. That's a technical, interesting thing that happens. You hit the wrong button and everything goes kablooey. So this is a very interesting experiment in these multi-streams. Uh-oh, Linda. That doesn't sound good. And I think Pokimane and Ninja are no longer being exclusively streamed on Twitch anymore. And they're partners. They make millions of dollars a year. Somebody said Ninja's made $100 million from his streaming. Pokimane's made $12 million. And they're saying, why should I just be on Twitch? I want to be on YouTube and Facebook and this. And they want to be on 10 streams at once. They want to reach as many people as they possibly can. Are stalkers signed on? I don't know. I don't think so. But are you seeing something that I'm not seeing? I don't think they have any stalkers. I'm just going to listen to you. Okay. Now you make me want to go check my YouTube channel and see if people are posting something that's like scary. I don't want people to get scared. I don't want stalkers.
If people are posting
I don't want any
something
trouble. Turn off the sound. Linda. Top chat from 2010. No. Jersey City Queen of. No. From 2010. No. Okay. I don't see any stalkers. And if we have stalkers, I will get rid of them because just the usual men in the street. Yeah, I know what you mean. No fun. And it always seems to be women that get the hassles. There's a streamer. Linda's fine. Good. Good. I'm glad. Linda's smiling. A smile is better than something terrible happening. There is a Twitch streamer named Wolfabel, is her online name. I could teach a class on that. Oh boy. I would like to take that class. Her name is Wolfabel, and she's a streamer. She mainly streams Grand Theft Auto on Twitch. And I guess there's this guy, I believe she lives in Great Britain, who found her somehow, stalking her, demanding, she said, sexual favors, or he was going to publicly dox her and reveal her private information. And she was, of course, terribly scared, and he was threatening to harm her and her family. So she had to leave where she was living and move in with a friend in an unknown place. And then she started streaming again and was crying and wondering, what's going on? Why is this happening? And it's a wonderful, prescient question. What is exactly happening? Why do these people, who are usually men against women, think that they can approach them and dox them and say terrible things to them that are undeserved, unfamiliar, and really tacky? You don't get a lot of, I guess, women stalking men online. I don't know why. I'm sure it happens, but not as much as the women who are trying to have a life. They're trying to pay the bills, and they have to put up with these guys who think that they are the beginning and the end of the world. And it's weird, and it's unfortunate, and it's the way of the world. So anyway, Ninja and Pokimane are now, I call it multicasting, but I guess the multi-streaming, I guess the correct phrase is simulcasting, which I have changed from multicasting to simulcasting. So I guess simulcasting is one stream propagated many places. Multicasting, multi-streaming, I guess could mean different times, different places, putting in different places, I guess. And now we're going to take our first blood pressure break of the day, returning very briefly after this moment of pause. I'll be right back. Something went wrong. Back in a moment, though. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.television. And it's very interesting to me that my Stream Deck is no longer working. I don't know what happened. I'll have to check and see if there's some kind of update. I want to do it right now, but I'm afraid I'll break everything. So I have to change all my scenes and click all my buttons in OBS and not on Stream Deck, which is very disappointing. But my mic turning on and off seems to work, as far as I can tell. Yeah, as far as I can tell. That's working. I don't know what happened with OBS. It's the technical gremlins that get you when you least expect it. So, something that is on the horizon that is also just a little bit dismaying is this idea that Google Chrome, which is the foundation for the Google Chrome browser, the Brave browser, there's some other Linux browser, and Microsoft Edge, they are going to stop you, us, me, from being able to use ad blockers as add-ins. I'm just checking my stream. We're new here. Okay, it's just background noise. So that means uBlock Origin, AdBlock, eventually, I think in 2023, something like that, it's going to stop. So you're only going to see ads everywhere, and you can't block them if you're using a Chrome-based browser, Chromium-based browser. Ad blockers, Linda's wondering about that. It's going to be a problem because people like ad blockers. Yeah, that's where they're making all their money. And you go to these websites like Mother Jones, The Guardian, and they pop up a thing that says, hey, you have an ad blocker on. Do you want to donate to us? Why don't you subscribe right now? Let me go see if I can find that because it's always so disgusting. But there are ways around that. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. You go to Mother Jones, just type in Mother Jones, and this is what you get. We noticed you have an ad blocker on. Is that even an English sentence? You end a sentence with on. A preposition. Someone asked Linda Corin. We noticed you have an ad blocker on. Just got a notice on my phone that our friend Donna on Facebook likes our video. Donna visited us yesterday, and we love Donna very much. We noticed you have an ad blocker on. Can you pitch in a few bucks to help fund Mother Jones and investigative journalism? There's Donna. Oh, thank you so much, Donna, for checking in with us. Our friend Donna is deaf, lives in Iowa. She's friends with Jana. Yay. And Donna is watching us on Facebook, where they're live closed captions. Yay. You do not have to wait for video. You are included, involved. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Donna, for being here. Oh, and there's Linda. Saying hello to Donna, which is beautiful. We love Donna. Donna is very funny, very loud, very obnoxious in all the most charming and delightful ways. Complete compliment. I'm the same way. So here we go with the ad blockers. So Mother Jones, a liberal, interesting, fantastic online and paper magazine, says, we need your money. So every day when I go read a little bit of Mother Jones, I have to click on this saying, not now, please leave me alone. I have an ad blocker on. There's a reason for it. I don't want to give you money. And I know that's terrible. And I publish Boles blogs where I don't take any advertising. But I realize these people have salaries to pay. So So you can read Mother Jones. So here's the problem moving forward. Soon we're not going to be able to block these ads, and people are very upset about it. So they're saying, well, move to Firefox. Firefox has been up, Firefox has been down, but right now the tendency seems to be that Firefox will be the perfect solution to be able to use an ad blocker add-in to block all the ads you don't want to see when you're surfing the internet. I don't want to see ads. I'm happy to pay for something I really want to see, but what you find out is when you pay to subscribe, they still give you ads. You think, I subscribe to you so I don't get advertising, and yet you're giving me even more ads because I'm a subscriber, and you know where I live, and you know what I do. So in investigating ways to try to figure out how to get around this, I found something interesting, and it's called Quad 9. I will put the link in our Discord chat after the show is over. But this is Quad 9. Now, this is technical. Linda will understand this. A lot of people I know will not understand this whatsoever, and they would need help. You replace your DNS server on your computer, on your iPhone, with the Quad 9 DNS. And it sounds confusing, and it is confusing, but it's very easy. If you make a mistake, you just revert back and let your cable company or your ISP see everything you're doing and continue to serve you ads. But here is the idea behind Quad 9. Where they're based not in America, which is probably why they can get away with this. They are based in Switzerland. No wonder. Just like Proton Mail, which I love. So, an open DNS recursive service for free security and high privacy. Quad 9 is a free service. Make this bigger. That replaces your default ISP or enterprise domain name server DNS configuration. And I know people don't know about DNS, but DNS is what allows you to find things on the internet. So it's very important. When your computer performs any internet transaction that uses the DNS, and most transactions do, Quad 9 blocks lookups of malicious host names from an up-to-the-minute list for threats. This blocking action protects your computer, mobile device, or IoT system against a wide range of threats such as malware, phishing, spyware, botnets, and it can improve performance in addition to guaranteeing privacy. The Quad 9 DNS service is operated by the Swiss-based Quad 9 Foundation, whose mission is to provide a safer and more robust internet for everyone. Now, I've been using this for about 10 days now. My computer's faster. Everything loads quicker. Sometimes they don't say that they're blocking ads, but when you see malicious host names, malware, phishing, spyware, botnets, well, if those happen to be display ads, or if Quad 9 thinks they might be display ads, and they know the origin, and they block them, it's pretty cool. Because you're blocking these ads and these trackers and these tracers at a very low level on your computer when you're on the internet. Your DNS. And you don't set DNS in your browser, you set DNS in your network settings on your computer. So right now they have 150 million average daily blocks, 20 threats intelligence providers, and 180 resolver clusters in 90 countries. And they're about privacy. So how do you do this? Here you go. Now, this sounds a little confusing, but if you know how to do DNS, you can go to this page and it will set it up for you. It will tell you how to set it up for yourself. And most of us are on IP4, not 6. So just stay with 4. A lot of routers. Verizon Fios has a big problem right now with IPv6. So if you're on 4, you change your DNS servers to 9999. And then you add a secondary DNS server of 149.112.112.112. And then you delete the original DNS server, which is like we have Comcast, was the basic Comcast server. You delete that, you add these 2, and you're in. And everything works faster and better. And people think that this might be a way to get around all of the ads that Chromium wants to sell you. So if things go wrong, don't worry. There are very easy ways to get it fixed. And you can do this on your iPhone as well, Android configuration options. They don't have it for iOS, but all you do is go into your network settings, DNS settings. You enter those numbers, these numbers right here, and it will be blocked on your phone as well. It's almost sort of like having a VPN that's just a permanent VPN that doesn't give you problems loading stuff. You can go to banking things, you can check your mail, and you don't get errors about why you're using a VPN, because this is a DNS server, not a VPN server. So Quad 9, it's interesting. Check it out. It might save you some time. Now here's a new interesting study. And we talk a lot about sleep on this show, and how it's really important to get at least 7 hours of sleep a day. I used to survive for 15 years on 4 hours of sleep a night. And oh boy, you could feel the difference in think patterns. Now that I get at least 7, I prefer 8. 6 is really not enough. But if I get 7, things seem to go well. Heart rate lowers, temperature is good. When you sleep, you want your temperature to lower because then your heart rate lowers. When you sleep, you need restorative sleep, and that only happens when your body temperature is low. So you must find a way to sleep cool. Do not sleep under a lot of covers. Use a fan, air conditioning on high. And you might feel a little bit cold at the beginning, but once you fall asleep and all that heat starts steaming off of your body and escaping because it's not being held in by a heavy blanket, you will sleep much better. And here is some new information that is just coming in. Oh, my phone is still on, making noise. Turning down the sound. I think our building notification software, speaking about viruses, got hit with maybe some kind of malware attack because for 3 days we've had no communication network system with the building. That to me suggests, meow, ransom attack. So warm-blooded animal groups with higher body temperatures have lower amounts of rapid eye movement, REM sleep, while those with lower body temperatures have more REM sleep, according to new research from UCLA. Now, that's very interesting because even in our Aura ring, which I have but is being charged right now, which I wear every night, which gives me my oxygen level and my heart rate level, REM sleep is not the ultimate sleep. Deep sleep is what Aura Ring calls the golden mission of getting deep sleep. One person said she was pregnant, but she said she got unbelievably 7 hours of deep sleep, and no one in the Aura Ring group could believe it because it's unheard of. I average anywhere between 20 minutes to maybe an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes of deep, deep sleep. And that's where your brain cleans out everything. So REM sleep is good, but deep sleep is better. But this article is about REM sleep. Birds have the highest body temperature of any warm-blooded or homeotherm animal group at 41 degrees, while getting the least REM sleep at 0.7 hours a day. That's followed by humans and other placental mammals, 37 degrees, 2 hours of REM sleep, marsupials, 35 degrees, 4.4 hours of REM sleep, and monotremes, 31 degrees, 7 hours of REM sleep. Brain temperature falls in non-REM sleep and then rises in REM sleep that typically follows. This pattern allows homeotherm mammals to save energy in non-REM sleep without the brain getting so cold that it is unresponsive to threat. That's very interesting. Now, so if you're cooler, you have better REM sleep. And if you're hotter, you're not going to sleep as much. And it's important for some animals to not sleep too heavily because of danger. There are things around them that want to harm them. So here it gets very interesting. Just showed up this morning on the same theme from experimental psychology that people who are night owls have a greater risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease than those who are early birds. Now, how do you make that change? Because I was a night owl for most of my adult life. And maybe in the last 10, 15 years, I'm behaving better. I'm getting older. I can sleep 7 hours now, not 4 hours. I like to wake up early in the morning. I used to go to bed 3 in the morning and get up at 7. Now I go to bed very early and get up early. And this new study seems to confirm, and this is out of Rutgers University, the State University of New Jersey, that getting up in the morning is smarter. Are you an early bird or a night owl? Our activity patterns and sleep cycles could influence our risk of disease, such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. New research published in experimental physiology, found wake-sleep cycles cause metabolic differences and alter our body's preference for energy sources. The metabolic differences rate how well each group can use insulin to promote, hey, there's Linda, good. Early to bed, early to rise. People who are early birds, individuals who prefer to be active in the morning, rely more on fat as an energy source and are more active during the day with higher levels of aerobic fitness than night owls. Now, that makes sense because overnight when you're sleeping, you are really fasting. So you wake up and from the moment you're awake, you're burning fat. That's why they call it breakfast. You are breaking your fast. Rely more on fat as an energy source and are more active during the day with higher levels of aerobic fitness than night owls. On the other hand, night owls, people who prefer to be active later in the day and night, use less fat energy at rest and during exercise. And if you want to exercise and lose weight, you really need to do it in the morning, sort of when you first wake up. Even before you eat, you will burn more fat. And if you exercise at night, say 6, 7, 8, and then you go to bed an hour or two later, it's very hard for your body to recover from that exercise. And your heart rate stays elevated and you do not recover as well. So if you're going to exercise, do it in the morning. But if the only time you can exercise is at night, then you got to do it. Participants were monitored for a week to assess their activity patterns across the day. They ate a calorie and nutrition-controlled diet and had to fast overnight to minimize dietary impact of the results. To study fuel preference, they were tested while at rest before completing 2 15-minute bouts of exercise one moderate, and one high-intensity session on a treadmill. Researchers found that early birds use more fat for energy at both rest and during exercise than night owls. Early birds were also more insulin sensitive. Night owls, on the other hand, are more insulin resistant, meaning their bodies require more insulin to lower blood glucose levels, and their bodies favored carbohydrates as an energy source over fats. So be careful when you're out there and you're trying to figure out how to lose weight and feel good. The study ends by saying we found that early birds are more physically active and have higher fitness levels than night owls, who are more sedentary throughout the day. Further research is needed to examine the link between chronotype, exercise, and metabolic adaptation to identify whether exercising earlier in the day has greater health benefits. And that is the latest news about temperature and health and exercise. And that means it's time for my next blood pressure break. And if you're new to the show, that means I'm on blood pressure medication. And it makes me go to the bathroom a lot, if you know what I mean. So, back in a moment. And we are back from break. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.television. I'm David Boles, here with you live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Jana Marie is with you on Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. Her show is in American Sign Language, but she also types texts, so everyone is included. No one's left out. We're all together as one. As it should be. Well, it's a very interesting day, and there's all kinds of news that's just fascinating if you care about the human condition. Here is some new research that is fascinating, that brothers and sisters, your kids, your siblings, shape character less than you thought. So being a role model for your younger brother or sister may not be a thing. Siblings play a central role in childhood, and so it seems reasonable to assume that they influence each other's personalities in the long term. Siblings adopt traditional gender-conforming characteristics that are considered typically male or typically female in a society. Well, this new research says our findings refute the idea that growing up with brothers or sisters causes us to develop certain personality traits in the long term that are considered typically female or typically male in society. Overall, current research suggests that siblings have a surprisingly small impact on personality in adulthood. For example, previous studies by our research group here in Leipzig show that sibling position, that is, whether a person is a firstborn or a sandwich child, the middle child, does not play a major role in personality. And that's big. In America, that was a big thing. The oldest kid makes all the rules, the baby of the family is the baby, and the one stuck in the middle is the dysfunctional child who never amounts to anything. That's the stereotype. However, results of the new study do not mean that sibling gender does not play a role at all in long-term life paths. Economic studies have shown that in the U.S. and Denmark, women with brothers earn less when employed. And taking that riff to the next level, who flirts to get ahead at work? Again, another question of gender. Men, female. Bosses, co-workers, underlings. Well, this study finds it's subordinate men who flirt the most at work. Now, the stereotype is, it's the young ingenue. Comes in all flirty, flirts with the boss, tries to get more money, prestige, power. It looks like it's the regular old guy by the water cooler, trying to hang out and look cool, who's doing the most flirting at work. The stereotype of the female secretary, who hikes up her skirt to get a promotion, is as pervasive as the powerful male boss who makes passes at his underlings. But a new study from the University of California, Berkeley, upends both tropes with evidence that it's actually men in subordinate positions who are most likely to flirt, use sexual innuendo, and even harass female bosses as a way to demonstrate their masculinity and power for personal gain at work. I guess we call that toxic masculinity. Most of the literature in this field focuses on men in power. But through a number of studies, we've debunked the myth that social sexual behavior is something that only high-power men do, that somehow power is this aphrodisiac that makes people take advantage of others sexually. In fact, we found that it's more often men who are insecure about their role at work, who use unwanted social sexual behaviors to look more masculine and powerful, even when they know it's offensive to women. That's very interesting. And I have to say, in my limited experience as a human being, it sounds right. You know the guy. Over there, working here for a while, doesn't move up, doesn't have any friends, so he puts on this big bravado, puts on a big show, talks about what he did over the weekend, got drunk, had a lot of women, trying to impress people who don't care. And these guys don't know how to read the room. They don't read the cues, the non-sexual cues, please be quiet and stop talking. And if you say that to them directly, please be quiet and stop talking, or if you beat around the bush a little bit and say, hey, let's talk about something else for a while, they don't get it because that's a sign of weakness. So they keep doing it. Not only are men more likely than women to engage in such behavior for personal gain, the researchers concluded, but it's most often men in lower power positions who describe themselves as charming flirts with sex appeal, who initiate social sexual behavior to appear more powerful. This idea dates back to old stereotypes about women. The secretary in the office who is low power might hike up her skirt and flirt with her boss so she gets better treatment. That experience showed that when people are asked to define themselves, a strong social sexual identity can serve as a predictor of how they will behave at work. That self-perception as a flirt is important for understanding what potential harassers think they are doing and how they come across to themselves, which sheds light on how they justify their problematic behavior to themselves. In one of the experiments, participants had the chance to ask a task partner of the opposite gender sexually inappropriate questions during an online get-acquainted meeting. One example was a choice between asking whether their partner ever had a workplace conflict, a control question, versus whether they ever had a workplace relationship, a social sexual question. Researchers then measured how many times participants selected social sexual questions and found that men initiated more social sexual behavior than women, but only when they sought to self-enhance, to appear dominant, powerful, and control. This gender difference was connected to how strongly these men had self-identified as flirts. Students were told that based on their responses, they would be assigned the role of boss or subordinate, and that they would work with their partner on a series of tasks determined by the boss. But in reality, in the study, the participants were assigned randomly and were matched with a partner of the opposite sex, who they would never meet in person, so as not to give anyone the opportunity to harass. Results were quite surprising, as they puncture the stereotype that low-power women are often most prone to use strategic flirting as a way to compensate for their low-power position. In another lab experiment conducted with undergrads, the researchers explored power dynamics. Participants read a hypothetical scenario between 26-year-old David and his new boss, Vanessa, 27. When they first met for coffee, David asked Vanessa to describe a great team. Vanessa said great teammates are those who are passionate, cooperative, and willing to work hard. Passion is really important. Then David responded in two ways. Passion? I can definitely offer you passion. Have you ever worked with someone you wanted to date? No. I'm curious who you find attractive. And the other response, hard work? Oh, I can definitely offer you a strong work ethic. Have you ever worked with someone you thought was a star? I'm curious who you find it easy to work with. So, questioned on both interactions, the students found David's first answer flirtatious, masculine, powerful, when compared to the second. We found support for the idea that low-power men's initiation of social sexual behavior towards high-power women may function to influence social perceptions of power. It's a fascinating study. And the conclusion is people generally have positive associations with being a flirt or being charming or having sex appeal. But when we take on that identity, it leads to certain behavioral patterns that reinforce the identity. And then people use that identity as an excuse for their bad behavior. What else is in the news? Hey, do you know your blood type? Many people don't. And I always like to know my blood type. And I asked one of my doctors to blood test me. And he said, why? It doesn't matter anymore. A blood type is a classification of blood based on the presence or absence of antigens on the surface of red blood cells. Human blood is divided into one of four main blood types, A, B, AB, O, and is then further divided into Rh positive or Rh negative. So here's the just wonderful thing if you know what type you are, and I do happen to know what type I am because I asked. I am AB positive. Right here. Wham. AB positive. Wham. What does it mean? Well, it means I'm the universal recipient. Talk about a selfish person. I can receive any of these blood types in an emergency, in an accident, during surgery, something goes wrong, and I can get blood. Usually, you need to have your own blood type if you are not AB positive. AB negative, rarer than AB positive. AB positive is very rare. About 2% of people have AB positive blood. But even rarer is AB negative. But AB negative is not universal recipient. I guess it's the negative Rh factor. And it's interesting that the number one blood is O negative. But O negative blood prefers O negative blood. So the type, O negative, universal donor. That means you can give your blood, if you're O negative, to any of these blood types, all the other blood types. And then here's my intersection, AB positive. I can receive all of these blood types. AB positive, universal recipient. So why are we talking about blood? Definitions, how we are all different, how we all behave differently, how we all react to different things. Well, here we go. So you haven't caught COVID yet. Yeah, we're going to talk about COVID very briefly. Does that mean you're a super dodger? This is a long, very interesting article that I will share with you in our Discord channel in the links from the live stream area. And this question simply asks, do some people have built-in protection against COVID infections? And you may have met these people. They've been in meetings. They've been in associations. Everybody gets sick but them. How is it possible? And it all relates back to HIV. People getting infected with HIV and AIDS. And there were some men who were promiscuous and who did whatever they wanted back in the 80s. All their friends died, and yet they never got sick. And so the scientists looked at those men and tried to figure out what is it about you that you don't get HIV. People who knew they had been exposed to HIV multiple times, mainly through unprotected sex, yet they were clearly not infected. And so the race Y was on. This is back in the 80s, 25 years ago. But now we have a new pandemic, COVID. For children under 18, more than 80% of them have been infected. But just as with HIV, some people have been exposed multiple times to COVID, but never had symptoms and never tested positive. Why? They want to figure it out. We've heard countless anecdotes about nurses and healthcare workers being exposed without any protection and remaining negative over and over. People share a household with someone who's been coughing for a couple of weeks and one person stays negative. They never get sick. What happened? Well, Hollenbach and her team, researchers, have found a genetic mutation that doesn't prevent the virus from infecting cells. It's what Landau was searching for in his HIV research. It prevents a person from having COVID symptoms. It turns out stopping an infection altogether is an extremely tough nut for our bodies to crack. So this is a very long and interesting article. And it goes back to 2003 with a team in London demonstrating how some people never get a stomach bug called norovirus, which causes vomiting, diarrhea. Researchers found that one mutation in their genes prevents them from making a molecule the virus needs to infect the cell. In 96, they were getting close to solving the HIV puzzle. One morning, the researchers found a big clue. The night before, they had set up a human experiment to test which molecules of HIV needed to infect a human cell. And it showed that HIV didn't enter cells the way scientists believed. HIV needed a little bit of help. HIV needs a specific molecule called CCR5 on the surface of the cell to open the door. Sounds familiar with COVID, right? And let the virus enter. Without CCR5, the virus just sticks to the cell surface but can't enter. It's kind of like the virus is knocking at the door, but nobody's opening that door. The door's locked. And that is what the researchers called a eureka movement. That was the moment where we could say we found something that had never been seen before. So how does all this relate to COVID? Well, for COVID super dodgers, the situation appears to be more complex than for people resistant to HIV. Instead of using CCR5 to open the cell door, SARS-CoV-2 uses the ACE2 receptor. People cannot live without ACE2. The receptor regulates your blood pressure. So unlike CCR5, you simply cannot knock out the ACE2 receptor. You're not going to have many people walking around that don't have ACE2 because they'd be dead. So since the COVID pandemic began, researchers have been trying to figure out people who test positive for COVID but don't have any symptoms. They don't get sick. They're positive, but they're fine. They don't get a sniffle or a scratchy throat, so they have no symptoms even though they're infected. So after analyzing DNA from more than 1,400 people, they identified a mutation that helps a person clear out a SARS-CoV-2 infection so fast that their body doesn't have a chance to recognize they're being attacked, and so the body doesn't have to respond. There are no symptoms. The mutation occurs in a gene called HLA, which is critical during the earliest stages of COVID infection. Having a particular mutation in that gene increases a person's chance of being asymptomatic by almost 10 times. They reported those preliminary findings online last September. Since then, they've gone on to show how this mutation works, and it has to do with your immune system preparing for SARS-CoV-2 before the pandemic even began in 2019. A virus first enters cells, HLA signals to the immune system that cells are being invaded, they need help. That signal triggers a cascade of events that ultimately lead your body to make potent weapons specifically designed to find and fight SARS-CoV-2. Weapons include antibodies and T cells that uniquely recognize pieces of this virus. And once these targeted weapons are available, your immune system has a much easier time clearing up the infection. But these weapons take time to manufacture, and that delay allows the infection to spread and symptoms to develop. That specific mutation in HLA, some people have T cells that are already pre-programmed to recognize and fight off SARS-CoV-2, so there's no delay generating COVID-specific weaponry. It's already there. And here's the kicker. For the HLA mutation to work, and for you to have these pre-armed T cells, you first had to have been infected with a different coronavirus. Most of us have been exposed to some common cold, coronavirus at some point in life, and we generate T cells to fight off those colds. But if you also have this mutation in your HLA, then, just by mere luck, these T cells you make can also fight off SARS-CoV-2. And it's definitely luck. But this mutation is quite common. We estimate maybe 1 in 10 people have this mutation. And people who are asymptomatic, that rises to 1 in 5. Fascinating study. And now it gets even more interesting. Last week, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, said, hey, no more masks on public transit. The subway, the trains, just do whatever you want to do. And some disabled people are very upset because they feel exposed. But the thing is, why make a joke out of COVID? Why make a joke out of the shared suffering that we all went through for 2 years? But that's exactly what the MTA is doing with these new stickers. They're going out to 10,000 subway cars and stations. 10,000! This stupid poster. And here's what's offensive about it, really. I mean, making COVID jokes. People make COVID jokes. Is it too early, too late? Who wants a COVID joke? Well, Kathy Hochul does. And this is the new poster. Masks are encouraged, but optional. Okay, but here's where it gets a little weird. Yes, a full mask. Yes, a mask that leaves your nose exposed. How is that a yes? You do you. This is where they're trying to be really funny by putting the mask only over someone's nose and not their mouth. Why? Why is that? Why print a poster and distribute it 10,000 places just to make fun of people who are concerned about getting COVID? And then there's yes, where there's no mask at all. And really, the last 3-4 months, mandatory masking, subways, maybe 10% of the people were doing it. So if they're already not doing it, why rub this in the face of people who need it to happen, of people who need the protection? And this is how it used to be. So they're making fun of their previous poster, which is terrific. And it made history. Mask on your neck? No. Mask only over your nose? Not quite. Mask over your mouth with your nose exposed, which is disgusting and very common. Try again. Mask over nose and mouth? That's the one. So you go from the perfect poster, the perfect informational poster, and to a poster trying to be satiric and self-mocking. And what's the point of that? I don't understand it. I don't think it's funny, and I don't like it. Now, speaking of COVID, you may know about these people who had to be intubated, right? Breathe on their own. This had to sleep on their stomachs in order to breathe better, which I didn't really understand, but now I understand it. Your lungs, I guess, are on your back. They're not closer to your chest because all your frontal organs are pressing on your lungs, so you sleep on your stomach and you can breathe better. This is how they do ventilation. And it's very risky for the doctor. The patient, as you can see, is not doing well. And they have to and then stick a tube down your mouth to force you to breathe, which is necessary, but also just a bit cruel. So here is a fantastic video from the New England Journal of Medicine titled Non-Invasive Positive Pressure Ventilation. And the idea of this is to help someone breathe, force the breathing into their lungs, even if they are not able to breathe on their own, instead of having to intubate them, stick a tube down their throat, have a doctor this close to their face so they can see what they're doing. You can just put this mask on their face instead. And it's the same result. Less invasive, better prognosis. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to play this video during the break. No sound, no audio, because there'll be music and we get in trouble with that. But it has captions. So I will turn the captions on, English, done, and play this during our break. So I'm going to play it right now. And I will return to you momentarily. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv, .television. Love that video. So interesting, informative. How science and technology work together to save us from ourselves in many ways. And yet there are people who deny science, deny technology, deny doctors, deny help, deny vaccines. They don't want the help. They don't want to be involved. And then what do you do? It's an interesting, terrible question that leads us into our next topic. We have discussed previously on this Boles TV live stream on the issue of abortion that the Jews will save us because their thousands of years history as a religious conceit is that a baby is not a baby, a child is not a child, a fetus is not a fetus, unless and until it successfully removes itself from its mother. And therefore, under Jewish Talmudic law, a woman is completely in charge of her body. A woman completely decides what happens to her pregnancy in consultation with her doctor, her family, her rabbi, whatever. So when the government tries to step in and say, you cannot have an abortion, these Jewish women eventually are going to go to court and sue and say, on religious grounds, as part of my religious belief, you cannot prevent me from having an abortion. A Roe v. Wade may have been the law of the land for 50 years, but a woman's right to choose in Jewish law is much, much older than that. And they'll win. If you protect the rights of Christians, you have to protect the rights of the Jew, even though people won't want to, but how do you get around it? And yes, there will be conversions to Judaism. And what are you going to do about it? Oh, you're just saying that so you can get an abortion. Well, I wouldn't have to if I could get one, is the response. But even in that milieu of understanding, of wealth of information, there are interesting, subtle things that also happen to a people and to a life. And there is a really fascinating article this morning, I'm clicking into my account, from the New York Times about Hasidic Jews and their education. And I will put this link in our Discord channel in the live links. And this is the argument in the title of this long, fascinating topic. In Hasidic enclaves, failing private schools are flush with public money. Now, it might surprise some of us that, your taxes, government money goes to pay for private religious schooling. New York's Hasidic Jewish religious schools have benefited from $1 billion in government funding in the last 4 years, but are unaccountable to outside oversight. The Hasidic Jewish community has long operated one of New York's largest private schools on its own terms, resisting any outside scrutiny of how its students are faring. But in 2019, the Central United Talmudical Academy agreed to give state standardized tests in reading and math to more than 1,000 students. every one of those students failed. Now, how does that happen? Well, this article goes on to argue that these schools begin early, 7:30 in the morning, and for 8-9 hours, these students study religious texts for 8 hours. And if they misbehave, they can be corporally punished, slapped, hit, kicked. And then maybe in the afternoon, around 3, 4 in the afternoon, they might do an hour of history or social studies or math or even English. Often English teachers cannot speak the language fluently themselves in these schools. Many earn as little as $15 an hour. Some have been hired off Craigslist or ads on lamp posts. During religious study, teachers in many of the boys' schools have regularly smacked, slapped, and kicked their students. Records and interviews show, creating an environment of fear that makes learning difficult. At some schools, boys have called 911 to report being beaten up. And that is the conundrum, because these schools want to teach religion over any other sort of education. And you have people from that community teaching that community. So if you have teachers who may be illiterate, can't read English, don't know history, don't know social studies, but they know their religion, you create a vicious sort of circle where no growth or knowledge can expand, where there's no way to assimilate knowledge from an outside mind to an internal mind. If everybody's learning the same thing and regurgitating the same thing, generation to generation to generation, where is the growth? Where is the need to learn beyond the simple umbilical? Or is the only thing that matters being devout and religious, finding your way home through only things that your religion wants you to know? Nothing else matters. And this article goes on to show examples of writing from these students, interviews with students who have graduated and failed. And it is alarming and concerning. And it makes you wonder just exactly what is the point of it? Just to create devout followers who will do as they are instructed? Live in a closed community? No influence or interest in the outside world? As there was one student who didn't know how to live a life, sort of escaped, called a suicide hotline just because he didn't know what to do or where to call. Couldn't really speak English, couldn't really read English, and the suicide prevention person was able to exchange images. They would draw images of what to do next and where to go next and what it would be like to find refuge. He was looking for a place to sleep because he had no place to go. So, is this how vicious circles are created? Echo chambers, silos, where the only thing that matters is faith and belief in the system. There's no education, there's no understanding. A lot of these Hasidic communities are against vaccines. They think the vaccine goes against God. And so, you think, well, okay, they stay in their community. They don't interact with other people. It's their religious freedom at stake, their choice, right? Well, what happens if they happen to be in a community that is not traditionally theirs? Interacting with non-Hasidic Jews, and they are unvaccinated. Then what happens? Do they infect people? Do they get infected and bring it home to their community? And then what do? And then what happens to the infection and the spread of disinformation? So religion can cut very many ways. You want to say it cuts both ways, but it's more than both. The Jews will save abortion, but there are also some Jews who do not want to be saved by education other than what is written in an established religious text. And in that context, we move to the next step of religion in our community with this very strange story of a Kansas teacher who is going to receive $95,000 after she was suspended for refusing to use a student's preferred name and pronouns. Now, in a way, that's called dead naming. If a person transitions from one sex to another, one of our regular friends here, Beyonce 2, began life as a male and is currently transitioning to a female. Beyonce 2 prefers to be called she, and no surgery, just started medication, considers herself female. So there are students in this school, in Kansas school, who wanted to be called by a different pronoun. And the teacher refused, and the student complained. And on religious grounds, the teacher won a settlement of $95,000 for dead naming a student. A Kansas teacher will receive $95,000 from her ex-employer after the school suspended her for refusing to use a student's preferred name and pronouns. Pamela Ricard, formerly of Fort Riley Middle School, says doing so would have violated her Christian beliefs. Ricard sought a religious accommodation to avoid using the student's preferred pronouns. Now, why is a person like that teaching in the first place? I don't believe this was a religious school. I believe this was a public school. And you bring your religion into the classroom? We live in interesting times. According to the complaint, Ricard was suspended for 3 days and given a formal written reprimand after referring to a student by his legal name, dead naming. However, the student, whose biological sex is female, had a different preferred name and uses he and him pronouns. Research has shown misgendering or dead naming transgender or non-binary people can have harmful effects on mental health. I will put the link to that study on our Discord server as well. Upon returning from her 3-day suspension, Ricard appealed the disciplinary action with the school board and superintendent. She asked for and was denied a religious accommodation that would have allowed her to avoid using the student's preferred name and pronouns. Ms. Ricard is a Christian and holds sincere religious beliefs consistent with the traditional Christian and biblical understanding of the human person and biological sex, the complaint reads. Continuing, Ms. Ricard believes that God created human beings as either male or female, that this sex is fixed in each person from the moment of conception and that it cannot be changed. Well, now some people will say, look, there are not two sexes. There's male and then there's Adam's rib. Her lawyers argued that referring to the student by his preferred name and pronouns violated Miss Ricard's conscience and her First Amendment rights to free speech and free exercise of religion. Well, I hope the student turns around and sues the teacher, because you are violating that student's right to be called whatever they want to be called. As part of the settlement, school officials agreed to issue a statement saying Ricard was in good standing when she retired, without any disciplinary actions against her, which is sort of the coward's way out. So, you dead name a student? You say God told you to do it? And you collect a bounty of $95,000. This is the story I'll share with you on our Discord channel. This is the study, a minority stress perspective on transgender individuals' experiences with misgendering. It explains why the teacher is absolutely wrong and should not be teaching children. Speaking of dead naming, hey, have you heard about monkeypox? It's not funny, but this is sort of funny. MPX, Mpox, the struggle to replace monkeypox with a name that isn't racist. Now, we may have gone too far. Some people argue that the name monkeypox is racist and disparages an entire continent. Others view it as offensive to gay men, and there are those who fear it could lead to indiscriminate killing of monkeys, as has happened in Brazil. All of that from the word monkeypox. So these administrators are trying to say, should we call it MPX? Should we call it Mpox? I think history tells you it's a little bit too late. Dead naming monkeypox, I'm not sure is going to work. Or undead naming monkeypox is not going to work, because it's been around for a long time and people have just kind of called it that. So there isn't one solution that's going to make everybody happy. Monkeypox was first recorded in people in 1970 in a 9-month-old boy in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In past outbreaks, animals, especially rodents, have been the primary source of transmission to human beings. It's a cousin of smallpox. Terms like swine flu and Middle Eastern respiratory system, China flu, Wuhan flu, have had unintended negative impacts by stigmatizing a certain community or economic sectors. Ask people what they dislike about the name monkeypox, and you'll likely get a different answer from each of them. Some think it reflects a history of nomenclature related to disease that assigns blame. In the early days of AIDS, when the disease was mislabeled as gay-related immune deficiency, or GRID, using the word monkey to refer to a virus is not only directly links it to an animal associated with the African continent, but also associates potentially the behavior of gay men as being monkey-like. In the hands of the wrong people, they can stigmatize those who might be affected by the disease. So they're thinking of MPX. Not very good. MPX is also the name of a machine gun. Mpox, not great, because the monkey attribution doesn't really go away. So that conversation continues. It's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. And speaking of dead naming, way back in November of last year, there was an order that SQUA, in the federal government, is a derogatory term that should be retired. So this is what Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland wanted to establish. She has declared that squaw is a derogatory term, an Indian term, and ordered the Board of Geographic Names, the federal body tasked with naming geographic places, to implement procedures to remove the term from federal usage. Now, there are some people who are not going to do it. They're going to call Squaw Valley, Squaw Valley. They're going to dead name the squaw. The secretary continues, racist terms have no place in our vernacular or on our federal lands. Our nation's lands and waters should be places to celebrate the outdoors and our shared cultural heritage. Okay, it's all right. It makes sense. The term squaw is derogatory and creates a federal task force to find replacement names for geographic features on federal lands bearing the term squaw. The term has historically been used as an offensive, ethnic, racial, and sexual slur, particularly for indigenous women. There are currently more than 650 federal lands that create the term, according to a database. So all that is good. All that is right. We agree with it. Now here's where government ridiculousness comes into play. So the title of this press release from the Department of the Interior is Secretary Haaland takes action to remove derogatory names from federal lands. Okay. Here it is from a week ago. Interior Department completes removal of SQ __ from federal use. Now, if you're trying to get your point across, sometimes you might have to use dead naming so you can be clear in the context of what you want people to understand. When I received this PR release from the Department of the Interior, and I'm trying to figure out removal of SQ __, what? Didn't make any sense. Didn't understand it. Will people understand it? So you say you're going to get rid of it. You get rid of it, technically in the database, and then when you announce it, you can't announce the good thing you did because you have banned yourself from using that term. That seems like a catch-22. A very bizarre thing to say. It's okay to say the word squaw, and you're not going to use it anymore. Oh, I just used it. I guess that's what they're worried about. The Department of the Interior today announced the Board on Geographic Names, the BGN, has voted on the final replacement of the names for 650 geographic features featuring the word SQ __. But right there, it's just ridiculous. It reads like parody, a satire on itself. The final vote completes the latest step in the historic efforts to remove the term from federal land usage. All great, terrific, makes sense. The way it was done leaves a lot to be desired. It gives the people who hate the word woke a lot of ammunition to fire back on this topic. Hey, did you hear we removed this word that we're not going to say? I guess it's like saying the N-word. But instead of saying S word, which most people would think is not squaw, you say SQ __. This is our modern world. Sometimes we spin in it, and sometimes the modern world spins us back. Here's the database, the official database of the names that were changed. The removed SQ name. Now, is that the most ridiculous thing in this table that we're looking at? And I will share this with you in our Discord server. Removed SQ name. But then you say squaw in the entire rest of the column. Squaw Canyon is now Santa Teresa Canyon. Squaw Canyon, these are in different places. North Timp Canyon. So we have a lot of Squaw Canyons. Another Squaw Canyon is Red Rock Canyon now. Okay, it's all great, but it looks ridiculous. It makes you look a little bit silly. It's okay to use the past term in order to make the new term right. From this point on, we're never saying squaw again. We're not having any more releases about it. And here's the geographic map of all these 650 places that have the SQ__ name in it. And I will share this with you as well in our Discord server. Well, we've had a wonderful show. Had wonderful visits from our friend Donna and our friend Linda. Talked about many interesting, wild things. We live in a complicated and confusing world. And the reason we try to uncomplicate things is because we try to make sense of the human condition. Right here on Boles.tv. If you have any questions or comments for me, please join me on our Discord server. Here's the link. Putting it right in the live chat. You can go there and say hi. You can also email me, david@boles.tv. You can follow me on Twitter, @DavidBoles. Super follows to follow. On Facebook, we're BOLES. On Instagram, we are Boles Books. YouTube, we are Boles Blues. And if you have any questions, comments, topics, send them to me. Let me know. So I hope you have a wonderful day, a great rest, maybe a nice little nap. And when you shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and no dead naming whatsoever. Thank you for being here. I will see you tomorrow.